All right, good evening. Welcome to American Hammers TV. There's John. Oh, nope. Actually, I added him. I took him away. He comes, he goes. The stealthy
Yeah,
man. Hey, John. How you doing?
I'm very well. You?
Good. We just got started. We just got started live. So you came in like at the perfect time.
Oh, good. I had slight technical issues. I'm at my in-laws' condo and I couldn't find the Wi-Fi password.
You got more than
And
technical issues if you're at your in-laws, but
well, yeah, but I got beer in the fridge, so it's all good.
Oh. To be fair, I just vacationed with my in-laws. My wife and the boys and I went up to Maine, and her parents more or less paid for it. So I was like, okay, that's fine. And we had a nice time. I actually had a really good time. So I can't complain about them at all. They're all right. All right. So before we get started, I'll say the same stuff I always say. Check out our website. Check out AmericanHammers.net. Look at the stuff you can get. Look, I got the Merrimack Valley Hammers T-shirt here. I haven't had time to tack everything up in this room. So got the Merrimack Valley Hammers T-shirt. I got the American Hammers TV flag, which is currently draped over my wife's master's degree from Oxford, because that's where my priorities lie. Is the American Hammers TV flag. This one, of course, comes the one behind me comes from the club shop, but you can get cool stuff. So and I bought my boys the Minecraft T-shirts with the little Minecraft guys on them that have the West Ham kits, and they loved them. They loved them. So if you have Minecraft people, oh, hello! If you have Minecraft people in your life, kids in your life who like Minecraft and you want them to be West Ham, then get them the West Ham Minecraft shirts. They love those. So, well, we're in the presence of greatness. What are you now? Are a finalist in Hammer Shots? Is that right?
I don't know what just happened. I think Jazz was a little unfortunate there, but what a match! Dear God, what a match! It's just I'm hoping I don't embarrass myself next week.
Once you got past me, it was pretty much smooth sailing from there, I'm sure. Nobody else is going to be able to challenge you after that. But no, congratulations. That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going through our, what we always say. Always say, if you want to be on the show, let us know. Find us on social. Find our go to our website. If you're a West Ham fan, let us know. I just found out this week that a guy I work with is a big West Ham fan. I haven't been in the office in months, so I'm not sure if I've ever actually met him. I was only in my office for a few days before we all went home. But he's a big West Ham guy, so I'm trying to get him into our Merrimack Valley crew. Maybe we can watch some games when the season starts back up. So that's exciting for me. So tonight I thought we'd do something a little different. So I am going to be defending the board, Gold, Sullivan, Brady. All right, defending the board. Now, you guys remember Stephen Colbert used to have a show called The Colbert Report, where he played a character named Stephen Colbert, right? It wasn't really him. It was him playing a character, except he used his own name. That's kind of what I'm going for, all right? I am, for the record, all of you in the chat room, everywhere else, I'm very much GSB out. I'm behind Hammers United and the protests. I don't like the conduct of the board. But I didn't think we wanted to spend an hour tonight hashing transfer rumors and talking about Declan Rice and a bunch of other stuff that's just going to be bandied about on Twitter. So tonight I am defending Gold, Sullivan, Brady. I will try to answer for everything they've done. And you guys can either agree, disagree, whatever you want to do. Take pot shots at me. I don't care. No, Danny's, is it your grandmother who knows David Gold's wife?
Yeah, David Gold's wife and my grandmother Jill are best friends. So every season we get VIP box seats and stadium tours and stuff. My brother usually does that because I'm scared to fly, but I told him this year is my fucking year. What kind of example am I to,
listen, as soon as we're allowed to leave this country and go somewhere else and go to a match, I'll come with you. I'll do that. I'll do that with you.
I get 2 tickets for 5 games, so basically 10 tickets. So
there you go. Well, I want to take the boys to a game, so I have to bring them to a game. But anyway, we'll figure it out because it's time for them to go. They're getting old enough. Yeah, so anyway, that's what we're doing. So I'll tell you what. I'll start it out with an opening statement. All right, here we go. Keep it in mind, I don't actually believe anything I'm saying. All right, you have to understand that. It's like when you're in high school debate, which I was never smart enough to be in, and you get a side, like you go into the debate and somebody tells you what you're going to argue, you either get one side or the other. That's kind of what we're doing. I'm taking the side that nobody else wants to take. So I'll start with this. And we just lost John. He's lost interest already. It's like that. He lives in Vegas. He lives in Vegas. It's like 7:00 in the evening. It's sunshine. It's probably warm. Oh no, he's back. John's like, I could go to the casino. I could go to a show. I could swim. Yeah. All right. So here's my little opening statement on the board. Right. If it weren't for Gold, Sullivan, and Brady in 2010, West Ham today would be Portsmouth or Sunderland or Charlton these days, would be bouncing around somewhere in the lower divisions, about to go bankrupt because of the way the Icelandics left us when their economy crashed. So Gold, Sullivan, Brady were not the destroyers of West Ham. They were the saviors of West Ham. That's where I'm starting. So you guys take off with whatever you want after that. Oh, see, it's such a.
I actually agree with that.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I used to place ads at Upton Park, and under the Icelandics, I was a client of West Ham, and we used to have to call them to say, do you need us to pay? And it would go back months and months and months. And there'd be ad revenue unaccounted for and everything else. The minute Karen Brady came in, the phone went, when are you going to pay us? And it would have been, I think Sullivan overplays it a little bit, and he plays that tune. He puts a quarter in the jukebox a lot with that, and that's his favourite song. But I do believe West Ham would have been teetering on some sort of edge. Checks would have bounced, that sort of thing. I do agree. I honestly think that West Ham would have been in the shit. It would have been a lead situation.
Well, that's the only statement that I will make that I actually do kind of believe is that I do think they kind of bailed us out at a critical time. So I'm not sure that's even wrong. There's a lot of other stuff, though, that they've done. I mean,
do
so
we remember
you guys,
what other options we had at the time?
What'd you say?
What other options were there at the time? Sorry, what was the other options at the time? Who else was looking to buy West Ham? Can we remember?
Tony Fernandez.
Well, now Fo knows. He remembers. Tony Fernandez was in, who is an airline CEO, I think. Supposedly he's a West Ham fan. I don't really know. And there were a couple of others. There was an American group that was rumored, I remember. There was a lot of activity. But you know what? I mean, in all honesty, okay, not playing a character for a second, they really did step in and do it when we were really close to going into administration and tumbling like into the championship or below. So I don't know. That one's kind of the one I look at and think like maybe they really did something for us there.
I think they did.
Do what?
I think they did something. If I remember going to games when I was a season ticket holder back in the day, and the number one song that the West Ham fans would sing was "Brown Out." When we had Tony Brown in charge,
Terry Brown.
Terry Brown. It used to literally just fucking echo around Upton Park, "Brown Out," and it was 30,000 people doing it. And then it went to the Icelandic guy who come in and thought, well, we'll bring Tevez and Mascherano and you know, it will work out. And then I was a little bit skeptical of fans coming in being board owners because it's a different thing to be a fan of a team and then to run a team. Well, it's two different things, I think, in my opinion. But I do agree with you, Lee, that they've done something, you know, when they needed to do it. And I'm not going to elaborate on now because of your point that you're saying from, you know, back in the day. But I think they did do a good thing I think they did save us, to be honest. And if they didn't save us on their own, they were 3/4 of the reason we stayed in administration and didn't end up being a Portsmouth, Forest, Sunderland, or Leeds kind of thing. Definitely thankful for that.
I actually am too. And stepping away for a minute from being a contrarian, I really do. At the time, I remember reading on Knees at Mother Brown and reading in the news and thinking, we're in real trouble here, like real trouble. So they might have done us a favor. But here, Neil with his communist spelling of the word jail, which is, I think that's what that's supposed to mean. Neil says we're in jail for life. Now, come on, jail for life. There's never been a better time to support West Ham than right now with this charge. We just broke our transfer record last year. We're in one of the world's greatest stadiums, where one of the biggest sporting events in the world was held less than a decade ago. No, hang on. What? Who disagrees with me? Come on. See, you have nothing.
Well,
nobody.
I've been to the stadium a few times, and like it was flat. When you go, if you go up to the rock, what's Johnny saying?
No, go ahead.
I was going to say about the stadium.
It doesn't matter. Whoever goes, whoever wants to go.
Go ahead, Ray.
I was just going to say, like, I've been to the stadium, and I've been at the top tier, and it's flat and anything. It's it's hard to walk up to. I've been a little bit lower, and it's a lot better because you can see it from the corner flag at an angle. But it's still too far apart from the pitch. You've got all this carpet, all this bit, and it's not. And I now prefer going to away games because I get to go to Anfield, and I'm like, you're right at the goal line. You go to teams like even Swansea when they were in the Premiership. Thanks Heineken for the free tickets. Little plug there if they want to give me more. You can see everything and you feel so close. You can literally, you don't have to squint to like, oh, is that number? Who's that? About to take a shot. It's not difficult. So, the stadium is not a football purpose, and that is a big, big issue for West Ham fans. And I understand that we got it for free, so we can't really be beggars choosers, but it's not for me.
Well, that's not the board's fault, Ray. That's your fault.
Hey, I didn't buy the stadium. I would have had to stay up.
Hey, they gave you a world-class stadium. Some organization somewhere last year voted it as the best stadium in the world. The best stadium in the world. I could find this if you really wanted me to. I'm not going to look it up, but I could. So if you don't like it, that's your problem, not theirs.
Was that Clarence and Hugh by any chance?
Yeah, it was Clarence and Hugh. It probably was Clarence and Hugh, actually. All right, John, what's your take on this world-class facility that the ungrateful West Ham fan base has not accepted?
It's not a football stadium. Simple as that. It was never going to be a football
The
stadium.
problem with Upton Park.
Which John?
I'm sorry to dispel any myth. I've been going to Upton Park since 1981, and in 1993, when they tore down the terracing, Upton Park was no more. And I've seen the place was cursed. I've seen so much shit over there over the years that Michael Tabor, the horse race owner, the former East London bookie, he used to own Taborski's Bookmakers in Canning Town and Plaistow. He wanted to move us to Canning Town back to the original site or near as in 1995. I was all for it. Iggy, the Icelandics, wanted us to move to the Royal Mail site by West Ham Tube Station from Upton Park. It's nothing new. And I was all over it. What I won't tolerate is a botch job. And I won't tolerate Karen Brady basically telling all the West Ham supporters to get on with it. Moving from Upton Park was 100% the correct decision. And Upton Park's problem was the last season we had there where we finished 7th. We're still bleating 25, 30 years later about finished 3rd in the league. So
yeah, you're making my fake.
I don't get the misty-eyed of Upton Park. I've been there so many times. Don't care. It's just a.
John froze in Vegas again, but I get you. You're making my fake argument for me.
Lee, the other thing I would like to say as well is when they turn around and say it's world-class facilities and world-class things, right? So an average fan, right? So you guys go to a game, right? All we go there, we go get something to eat, we get something to drink inside. That inside terrace is nothing different to what was Upton Park. It's just a square box with ready-made food being served to you. Okay, you walk up a set of steps to go sit in a plastic chair. Nothing different. The only thing that's different is the view. The lights look nice. There's no other quality stuff that West Ham fans. Maybe the doors that we walk through is more quality.
Yeah, okay. You're ignoring the largest video board in Europe. All right. I don't think you're giving proper respect to the largest video board in Europe. Okay. And the deep history of the stadium where the Olympics took place. The Olympics, the greatest sporting event known to mankind, reaches back to ancient Greece. It connects us to our ancestors. You couldn't get that from Upton Park. There's no way you could ever get that. So
what you could get from Upton Park was a pie and mash, walk to the stadium, all the fans jumping on each other's back, supporting local businesses, none of this homemade stuff. No, get off the train and walk however many miles to get to the stadium. Everything's like right there. They just took everything away from all the local businesses that have been supported for so many years. And it sucks for all those people, because for me personally, like I said the other day, I watched the Iron Man documentary. I know the rib man with one leg. You know, I know the lady that serves the pie and mash and stuff like that. And I feel bad for those people, because just because you got a little bit of money, you've taken away that little pride from them. I understand you try to move for bigger and better, but you've also taken the atmosphere away. Unless those seats are on the ground like Upton Park was, I don't think it's ever going to be a football field.
the atmosphere is up to the fans. It's not about the design of the stadium. Okay.
Well, you got to
no. This. Keep in mind, I'm still making my fake arguments here. The atmosphere is up to you. It's not up to the seats. Seats are just plastic. It's up to you. You have to go in and make noise. That's your fault, not theirs.
35,000 fans at Upton Park have outsung 55,000 at the London Stadium.
That's the fans' fault, not the stadium's fault.
I think like when you're talking about
only on big games.
I definitely remember there have been times where I've seen the fans, like when we beat Spurs at home in 16-17 when Lanzini scored, or after Payet left and we beat Palace 3-0 and everyone was singing Super Slaven Village. Like those were actual times that I remember thinking, wow, this is the fans are in it, they're involved, and you can tell. But it's they just come so too far between that you don't really remember them. I think the problem is that there's no consistency to it.
All right. Well, then let me advance another argument about the stadium in favor of the board. All right. I like being liked, and this is hard for me to do because nobody likes what I'm saying. But anyway, so staying at the Boleyn was West Ham's path to eventually being a League One club. Without a larger stadium and more revenue and a bigger venue to bring in world-class players, West Ham had absolutely no chance to stay in the Premiership. That's an argument.
I agree.
Really?
I totally agree. Yep, totally agree.
You're not helping the premise.
Well, this is a funny thing. I'm the worst person to come on here because I kind of just to touch on the point previous about the businesses around Upton Park, right? They had 10 years notice, more or less.
That's right. You got to adapt. That's
and
right.
If you in any walk of business, you have to be close to the money. If your money comes from West Ham and you not close to it, you got to get close to it. If I was a pie and mash shop or a chippy or whatever else, I'd have up to move to Stratford because that's where my money would have been. And it's on them. They didn't do it. That's up to them. That's tough shit. That's bad business on their part. It's not West Ham's fault.
Okay, so how much extra revenue do we actually get per season for having double the size of Upton Park? Basically, we only
double
get
the revenue. It must be double the revenue, right?
It's not. It's not. We only get an extra
ticket price is not the same.
Well, okay, so it's 50% more. I don't know.
No, it's not. It's only $1 million more.
Yeah.
I mean, the money comes from the TV.
So that was Kieran on his the West Ham podcast. What he did with the finance.
So the stadium makes us a better draw for the major TV broadcasts. How about that for the big
Well,
Sunday
look,
afternoons, the big Sunday afternoon games where it's national TV instead of just for the non-Saturday 3 o'clock.
The way the TV is divvied up is if you're a major network, right? Let's say when Leicester won the league, there was no one more pissed off about Leicester winning the league than the TV networks because there's no worldwide audience. All they want is Manchester United, Arsenal, Chelsea, and Liverpool in the top 4 because that's a worldwide armchair audience. They don't want Leicester winning the league. They don't want West Ham winning the league. So when we get on the TV, we're kind of like the divvied up. It's like the NFL with their Monday Night Football. Everyone gets a go. But then if you do better, some games are rescheduled, mostly for gambling purposes. So if you've got a bigger stadium, you are going to generate more match day revenue if the venue allows. And this is a mistake the board made. They went to the Olympic Stadium without full control of the venue. We don't.
Oh no, it's not a mistake. That's a design. That's a design move. That's a strategic move. They didn't want. They're just. It's outsourcing.
It's a long-term move.
It's outsourcing. They're paying rent.
But if you look at every Olympic venue since time began, they're all massive white elephants. So basically, the people that run the London Stadium or the Olympic Stadium, whatever you want to call it, they're going to get. Sadiq Khan, the London mayor's going to be going, yeah, well, hang on a minute. There's too much money going out here one day. And Sullivan's going to go, yeah, thank you very much. And then whether Sullivan's got the money and the will to put the dough in to change the stadium or change the layout or change this, change that is on Sullivan. We don't know. But that is the long-term play of getting the land on the cheap. That's why Tripp Smith, the American dude's involved. He buys all the land for the casinos and rents it back to the casinos. That's the only reason that dude's involved is because of the land.
So I agree with. See, everything was much longer term game than what we want to believe as fans. They want to get it to the point where this whole infrastructure, they don't own it, but it's so dirt cheap that they can go and pick it up for next to nothing 10, 15 years from now. Not today, not yesterday. So the actual salesmanship of what they've done as a club, they changed the brand, they changed the stadium, they changed everything about us in order to make it one massive marketing campaign. And that marketing campaign is not even for them. It's for the next buyer. There's two qualms about that. It's for the next buyer and picking up those international fans all around the world with the name London on the crest, with the simplified crest, with all the iconic pieces of the stadium. It's not about the person that goes to the stadium anymore. It's not.
Why do we need to change the crest, though? Why do we need to be someone? Why do we need to be a completely new identity? Why couldn't we just go to a bigger stadium with the same crest and be the same West Ham? What was the need to simplify, take away the flag completely and just?
Because we're not a club anymore. We're a brand.
It's more marketable because it's simpler. Yeah,
I don't agree with crest. I mean.
Terry Brown took FC off the club badge donkeys years ago. It's not been a football club for 20 years.
It's not, and I think that's a bad thing. I think that's you think of. I mean, all of you guys are fucking. No offense to any of you, but you're old enough to know that West Ham is fucking West Ham. This is a different. This isn't West Ham anymore. It's like a fucking new era.
Josh, which is exactly okay. I'm going to make the board's argument here, which is exactly what it's supposed to be. Which is exactly what it's supposed to be. Don't listen. You guys know, and nobody talks about companies in the corporate world, right? What do people talk about? They talk about brands. If you work in marketing, John knows what I'm talking about, probably. About brands. Brands do this, brands do that, brands do this, brands do that. Everything is a brand. You are a brand. West Ham is a brand. It's not a football club. It's not supposed to be a football club. It's a brand to be marketed and sold. And that's what the board are doing. And I'm making their argument here again, but that's what the board are doing is they're making it a brand to be, because that is the future of sport. We've already seen it here in this country happen a long, long time ago. Doesn't matter who goes to the games. Nobody cares. That's not important. What's important is, can you rake in the TV money? Can you sell the merchandise? Can you get yourself into a position where you're a global brand like Manchester United has been for 25 years?
I've got no problem with Sullivan making money. I mean, right, let's say, okay, let's go back to when Gold and Sullivan bought it. Right, Sullivan had his shit together in life and was so successful that he had the money to just go, yeah, all right, I'll buy West Ham. Now, I don't know about anyone else's bank statement, but with the fact we're sat here and not in Sullivan's office means we can't afford to buy West Ham. So now that's fine. However, the biggest problem is 5-6 years later, Sullivan does not have the money to play at the Premier League poker table.
Oh, sure he does. Of course he does.
He's scared money.
Nah.
This way he's not
he
putting
plowed.
it in, gun ho. He's not Daniel the Arab's your own city. It's not. We can't write off Felipe Anderson at 40 million.
Hey, let me tell you what
Chelsea
he did.
Could.
Let me tell you what he did. He gave the fans exactly what they wanted. All right. He did exactly what the fans wanted. David Sullivan. All right? Now wait a minute. Hear me out. He brought in a fancy pants Premier League winning foreign manager. Okay. And he plowed 200 million pounds into the club. And he bought Felipe Anderson and he bought Sebastian Haller and he smashed the transfer record twice in 2 seasons. And he brought in, the tie stroker. And that's what everybody wanted. And that's what you got. Okay. He gave you what you wanted. It's not his fault that it hasn't worked out.
Every season
he gave you what you wanted. Ungrateful fans. That's all you are.
Next season, we're going to break our transfer again.
Do what?
Next season, we're going to break our transfer again. It's just the way football's going now. Everything's richer and richer.
Sullivan has been a fantastic steward of our finances. All right. An absolutely brilliant businessman. And Karen Brady, is a baroness, which must mean something. She's on Shark Tank. She's got to be smart. She keeps listen, you guys know there's no such thing as bad publicity. Okay. That's something that's been true for a long time. Her column in the Sun, it keeps us out there. It keeps us relevant, keeps us moving. It's a fantastic stroke. It's a brilliant stroke. I don't know why nobody sees this. All right. I don't know why nobody sees this. I don't know why everybody's so I don't know why everybody's so anti-board. It doesn't make any sense to me. And you're all silent now because you can't respond to that.
Do you want a board story?
Sure. Tell me a board story.
Right. Or a boring story, or you will be bored afterwards. But
everybody's bored already.
The reason why I joined the Hammers United protest, and I'm going to put out a real protest, about a digital protest, but that's another conversation for another time. David Sullivan Jr. decided to come to Vegas. And he wanted to meet up with someone to watch the Tottenham game. So I ended up meeting him at a pub just off the strip. And he walked in and said hello to him and yada, yada, yada. So we're having a couple of drinks. He brings his 2 skanks in. And if I was a billionaire's son, I'd be doing a little bit better at the club for himself than he did. Now, what happened was we're having a drink. And then there was a group of West Ham supporters on the stag do, like bachelor party from London, recognised him. And it didn't go too well. It was a bit of a Mexican standoff, and West Ham started to lose. So he made a short, sharp exit by tapping me on the shoulder, going, "Oh, you don't need any money for that, do you?" And he stiffed me for $150 bar bill. And that's the reason why I'm going to promote this protest I'm going to do, and I'm going to really fuck it all up for him.
Listen, he's a tycoon's son. Already knows how to protect the family fortune, John. You got to be smarter than that, man. That's your fault. That's not his fault. That's I'm sorry, but that's on you. All this is on all you people. No, that's on you. That's not on. He didn't screw you over. No, he's not the son of a billionaire who screwed you over for $150.
I know it's my fault.
That's hilarious.
Well, I was too trusting.
No, honestly, okay. Stepping away from
it was actually.
Really, that's really terrible.
My miss an anchor. And I was like,
No, I'm not being serious. That's really terrible. I just want to make sure, Gary and Foe, you guys, I feel like a War of the Worlds thing. So my thing tonight is I'm defending the board against everything I actually believe. I'm defending the board just to make it fun and interesting, which it hasn't really been so far, but we'll see where it goes from here. Yeah. All right. So how about this? Overdraft loan against CV revenues to pay for transfers and installments. That's smart business. All right. Don't you guys know what a leveraged buyout is? Corporations do this all the time. Debt. is part of growth. Okay, debt is part of growth. If you have too much cash sitting around, all right, if you're a big corporation, you have a bunch of cash sitting around, your investors, your shareholders start to ask, what are you going to do with it? They don't want it sitting around. They want it working for the club or working for the company. So this is what Gold and Sullivan and Brady do. They maximize the value of every pound by going into debt and making payments as late as possible so that they keep as much money as they can flowing. See how that works? You guys just don't understand finance. That's all. If you were a baroness, you would get it.
Maybe they're just trying to keep things interesting, keep us on our toes.
Are you not on your toes?
I'm always on my toes when I see something in the news involving the board. And I think they're doing a good job of making sure that I can't sleep peacefully.
All right, so we haven't finished the payments in Sebastian Aller. They say they're going to do it this week. All right. Again, this is just smart business. It's a try before you buy. You bring him in. You see how he's. You don't pay for everything up front like a schmuck. You pay as you go. You pay as you go, right? This is what they're doing. This is what smart business people do. You guys just you don't think like Karen Brady and David Sullivan. Okay, if you did, you'd get it.
I don't care about that. I don't care about how they pay. Who was it? Frankfurt. I couldn't care less if they miss payments or whatever. What I care more so about are the non-interest-free loans that they're obviously have against the club. So they're collecting money. They can complain about running poor all the time while still collecting money off of buying out the club's loans. They have. I'm no financial person by any means, but the selling of Upton Park and the strange corporations that seem to pop up and disappear with that whole transaction. I mean, what do we all expect, though, to be honest? The owners don't come out of nowhere. They don't do anything altruistically. You're not going to get people that are coming in.
That's right. That's right.
But at the end of the day, they're there to make money. There's only two type of owners in football. Ones that are there to make money and ones that have enough money that don't care whether they make anything or not. And we have ones that are there to make money. And that's a realization that we need to go through. And we need to put it in that kind of perspective as to what kind of a job they're actually doing. So if you're there to make money and you want to grow your asset, they seem to have stripped all the assets of the club. They have no culpability over anything because we don't have really any facilities anymore. It's all loaned out crap. There's no building at the club. We've got one fucking scout. How are you making that asset more valuable? That would be my question. How are you making that asset more valuable?
You know how they're doing it, John? You know how they're doing it?
Payday loan.
They're not soft, okay? Football has gone soft. The players have gone soft. Scouting has gone soft. Look at Rush Green. That's a man's facility is what that is, all right? There's nothing posh about it, all right? There's no panhead showers in there. Okay, there's no masseuses in there. All right, it's a fucking trailer. Sorry. I hope my mother's not listening. It's a trailer, okay? It's a trailer. All right? So my mom never gets 35 minutes into a show anyway, right? It's a trailer, and that's what it's meant to be because that's why you got men like Mark Noble playing for West Ham because they're men. They're tough, all right? They're tough. You think Julian Dix wanted to hang out in some posh facility? No, they're making men out of these guys, okay? That's what you don't understand. That's what nobody understands. Rush Green is the perfect football facility. It's absolutely stark and Spartan and exactly what it's supposed to be.
It does the job. It
does the job.
It is the Mark Noble of training facilities.
Oh God, poor Mark Noble. That's really a terrible thing to say about Mark Noble. They plowed 4 million Great British pounds into it. That's a solid, like meat of the curve investment. So how have they stripped the club of assets? The club has tons of assets. You know what the club has? It has toughness. It has grit. It's East End. It's an East End working men's club with toughness and grit. That's what it has, John. I'm surprised you can't see that.
How in debt are we right now?
I mean, what do the numbers really mean? You guys don't know. I mean, listen. That's all very complicated stuff. All right, you don't have to worry about it. You're only fans. Okay, don't worry about that.
Lee.
Do what?
I thought you said it was easy. It's just like numbers on a bit of paper.
It's numbers on a bit of paper. Hey, if you can't trust a career pornographer, who can you trust? I mean, if you can't trust a man like David Sullivan, whose ex-wife was a porn star who committed suicide.
What do you guys make out of this Jetty situation? As far as we said at the beginning, loan him for a year and we'll sell him for $5 million. Well, now we've said just pay $4.5 million now. Is that not a sign of debt when you just say, okay, we'll just take the $4.5 million rather than taking the $5 million after a year and just settling for less? Like, does that not show signs of kind of like weakness in the board?
No, he was a problem in the team. There were problems with him.
Did he not?
No. Nobody knows about it because
he didn't
listen,
go to training ground. He trained on his own.
Nobody liked him. All right, he only spoke Swiss. Okay, he didn't ever learn English. All right, he only ate Swiss cheese, and you know what I mean.
He always showed up late. He was never.
He had to have a cow like in his garden because with a bell on it, and it woke everybody up.
He refused
a cow were wandering around the training grounds. Listen, that's not a money issue. Okay, don't worry about the money issues, guys. That's for the board. The board have that under control. No desperation here, Danny. There are things you don't know. Okay, that the board will leak to you through Claret and Hugh when you need to know.
Oh, good old Claret and Hugh.
Claret and Hugh, as fine an example of football journalism as you will ever find. Sadly, that's almost true though. Because football journalism is so bad.
They do everything right.
You guys, I mean, you just don't understand how the board works. This is the greatest ownership group in the history of West Ham United.
And the funny thing is, you're not wrong.
I'm not actually joking about that one.
Yeah.
If you go back to like reading John Lyle's book, and John Lyle.
I wish, Gary. I wish. Oh, I wish, Gary. Yeah, don't get me started on that. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
If you go back to like the Kearns era were terrible. Terry Brown was the cancer of West Ham. And the Icelandics, I mean, they said all the right things, they did all the right things until they did all the wrong things.
Right.
And
to their whole economy.
Did wrong. Yeah, that wasn't nothing to do with their footballing knowledge. I reckon they would have been just right. It's only West Ham could get one of the world's richest men in charge and go bust.
Right.
So the problem country collapses. Well, the problem we've got with Sullivan right now is Sullivan's fortune is leveraged against retail property, which is going to take a huge kicking. So if he's quibbling over selling like a jetty flight, whatever it is, and getting him off the wage bill, that kind of tells you and give you a little bit of a clue about what the future's going to be. I don't think it's going to be too bright.
No, if you guys can't see that between Amazon and COVID, retail property is the place to be, I don't know what to tell you. All right, retail property and commercial real estate, that's where you want to be right now. Okay, you guys don't understand that, okay? Because you look at it and you say,
that's where Sullivan is.
Right. You look at it and you think nobody goes to shops anymore. Nobody's even allowed outside the house anymore. Well,
Yeah, but that's bullshit though at the same time, because those retail property guys, they're the ones that make out in times of a recession. They just double down and buy everything on the cheap if they have enough money.
If there's ever such a thing as
Sullivan's one's on Oxford Street. The biggest, I think it's John Lewis. But he's screwed. He's going to take a kicking. The word is his fortune's going to go down. He's not like he can go down and get a billy from the ATM. It's all leveraged, and so he's now looking at a leveraged problem where he's borrowed at one level, but the value of his portfolio is going to be so much less. Gold's exactly the same with Ann Summers. All those retail units. No one's going out on the pool on the chase it at the moment because no one wants to catch whatever they're catching. So it's all going to go south.
All you got to do is turn around backwards, John. The government told you what to do. The government told you turn around the other way. Yeah, turn around the other way.
His problem is he's a billionaire, as in he has a billion, and he needs to be a multi-billionaire.
Totally.
Well,
to play at this game,
Let me just say
that's what I've said about him when it comes to football, because he's worth about 4 Neymars, and that's not nearly enough to get by in today's game.
Neymar, based on his performance today, not worth 4 Neymars, not worth a quarter of a Neymar, but all right. So I just want to say this. Let me step outside of pretending to defend the board. The part about this ownership being the best West Ham have ever had may actually be true. That's the sad thing. It may really. If you read Chuck Corr's book or almost any book on the history of West Ham, I mean, from the days of Thames Ironworks until today, the owners have pretty much always been lousy in one way or another. So, you know, that is actually true. That is weird, but actually true. I don't know. I don't have any more ways to fake defend the board at this point. So I don't know. Do you guys have more charges?
I've got one thing I will defend them on, and they did what no one else has done. Because West Ham have a really strange relationship with its past. You look at John Lyle got screwed over. Bobby Moore treated like shit after he left, and they started making money after he died. And that was Terry Brown. That wasn't
that was Terry
Sullivan. Yeah. They made it right with Billy Bonds, and you know what? I will never forget that. They brought Billy Bonds back into the club, and they made it right with him. And actually, that's something they need credit for.
That is true. I mean, in all seriousness, all kidding aside, that is true. I mean, you're right about that, and you're right about Bobby Moore and the way he was treated, John Lyle the way he was treated. It's kind of shameful what a lot of past owners have done. So at least they got that right. So yeah, I don't have any more fake defenses for the board. You guys who tuned in late or whatever, this was my attempt to play devil's advocate and defend everything the board has done, and it's pretty hard to do. It's pretty hard to do. So we got about 20 more minutes. Do you guys want to talk about?
I've got to jump out. I've got to jump out. I've got to go do some work.
All right, Ray.
Don't tell the boss.
Hey, listen. Thanks for coming on. It was good to see you. And
see you later,
good luck with your very posh sit-down restaurant you're now running. So
exactly.
I would like to say one thing on the stadium move, and I would like to get kind of your take on it as well, guys. Do you not feel as though if someone's going to move stadium to stadium, do you not think that maybe the fans could possibly have a say in if that is something that they want to do? Obviously, as businessmen and businesswomen, money's there to be made, and they're going to do what they're going to do ultimately. But do you think maybe they would have been respected a little bit more if they had said to us kind of, how do you guys think about the move? And kind of took in the advice from the fans, listened to the fans, and not just up and done it and kind of changed the West Ham way?
I'll tell you what I think.
I think so.
Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. So I think that the respect would definitely go up. If I remember, but again, this goes back to the lies that we've been told by the board. Like the seats will be closer. This will be a better game day experience, and we're gonna keep a lot of what makes West Ham when we move. And that didn't happen, which I think is where a lot of the problems with the stadium comes in. Is that a lot of the promises made weren't kept. Because I feel like at the time, the move to the stadium was kind of seen as sort of a necessity to grow and to move on to that next level that we've always sort of wanted to be at, but we never have actually made the commitment to be at. So I think that if we look back at the move and its popularity, and we had the ability at the time to see that it wasn't going to work out, but maybe if the fans were able to give their input and say, like, move the seats closer, get people more involved with the club, then I think that the popularity with the board would have definitely gone up.
Yeah. Respect goes a long way.
Do you guys remember? Now, I'm dropping the facade. I'm just going to speak honestly here. I remember, and I know it's nothing official, but Nizet Mother Brown, ran a poll at the time of the stadium discussions, as to whether we should move to the Olympic Stadium or not. And overwhelmingly, the fans there said yes. It was like 75-25 or something like that. It was a huge, disparity. What I think happened was they oversold it. They said, this is going to get us into Champions League. They actually talked about Champions League. They said this is going to put us at the next level, whatever that means. They oversold it big time, and people bought into it, I think, in part because we didn't know as much about them at the time. We didn't know who they were. They had come in, they had kind of saved the club, if you we're going back quite a ways here. The stadium move was 2016, but the discussions of it go back to like 2009, 10, 2011. And I think they just grossly oversold it. I've always said if they had come out and said we have to move stadiums in order to be competitive in the Premier League, it would have been a harder argument to make, but a more honest argument to make. The fact that they said this is about Champions League and about Europe, that's the problem. Is there's no way they could meet those expectations.
It definitely
was bad marketing.
They definitely oversold. They've oversold everything. They've tried to market themselves as the saviors. And in fact, if they'd just been honest with, or at least not even completely honest with their intentions, because we all know they're probably going to be around to sell, I would think. But just be a little bit more real with the fans. I had no problem with them taking over the club. I think it was a good decision at the time. I think that, we're in a massive global recession, so you've got to put it in the context of the time, and the Icelandics were shit out of luck on that one. The stadium move, you've got to put that into context. At the time, we had Tottenham sniffing around. We had Tottenham hacking the mobile phones of West Ham executives and people within the club, and talking about moving into our territory and trying to decimate our fan base.
No, that's true.
I had no problem with the move. Again, you're right, though. I think they oversold what it would look like and what it would transform the club into. If they hadn't talked about what the change was, because it's not going to transform us overnight unless we're willing. Even if they had come in and said, 10 years from now, we're going to attract a quality investor that will take over what this club is and bring it to the next level, because that's not them. They don't have the cash for that. They don't have the patience for that. They're people that flip houses, and we're the house.
Yeah, I think you're right. And again, I'll speaking out of how I actually feel, I do. I think if they had said exactly what you said, John, we're a stopgap, we're going to get the club into shape. You really have to go back and think about, what if we had lost the Olympic Stadium to Tottenham, which could have happened? Would anybody be happy about that now? I don't know. Or would we still be angry about it that they have this? You know what I mean? Would we be looking at it now and saying, thank God we don't have the Olympic Stadium, it's terrible? Or would we be saying, look at that beautiful facility they have that holds 65,000 people that they fill, while we have a crumbling ground that holds 35,000?
Well, Tottenham are going to level it. Tottenham wanted to level it. That was their thing.
Who I blame all that for, Johnny, as well, was that whole Olympic committee back then. Because they got away with, and we've been allowed to be the scapegoat, right? They've got away with being able to design an 80,000 person stadium or whatever it was at the time and not have a suitable tenant to move it into. Football's the only sport in that country that somebody could move into that stadium and fill it. You're not going to fill that with athletics.
If you look at Manchester City, take City for example, right? When they had the Commonwealth Games at the City of Manchester and they were moving from Main Road to there was a preordained plan that City were going to take the stadium afterwards. So Manchester City were involved in the club, all the architects. What do you need after the Olympics is done or the Commonwealth Games? Seb Coe honestly believed that there would be 60,000 people watching athletics.
That's never happened anywhere outside the Olympics. Yeah.
Never.
Never.
The average attendance is like 5,000 at Crystal Palace.
Nowhere in the world outside the Olympics has that ever happened in the history of mankind.
Right.
Seriously, I'm kind of not joking.
So we got blamed for jumping in on a good deal, or not the best deal, but a good deal. But who could actually blame West Ham for jumping on something that's basically rent-free in their catchment area?
Well, this is the thing. It's what we did with the stadium. Like, if you've got the problem was the world, the actual deal was the World Athletics Championships, or after we moved in. In hindsight, we should have stayed at Upton Park one more season, and let them get that one out the way, and then gone there afterwards, and then you go, okay. Then no one gives a shit about athletics unless it's the Olympics or the World Athletics Championship, and then let's do what we need to do to the stadium. But I mean, going back to the Olympic Stadium, the yada yada yada, then they showed you the video of the Bobby Moore, statue, and this and that. They sold it to West Ham fans, not knowing whether they would be able to deliver it. And then Brady got in front of the Olympic Committee, and they were told a flat ass no.
Yeah.
So that's basically their problem.
Yeah.
And that
that's
was
true.
it. And it ended up being a botched job. And I don't think that relationship can be repaired now. The only thing that repairs it is a trophy. Only thing.
I was going to say a trophy solves everything, in my opinion.
They bring a trophy, I'll tell you what, all is forgiven. They've done something that no one's done since 1980.
Right. A trophy solves everything. Not likely to happen, but even the League Cup solves everything. The other thing.
Are you forgetting we won the Betway Cup 2 seasons ago?
That's right. Well, and you forget the Intertoto Cup in, what was it, 99 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, there was Intertoto thrown in there as well. So you guys, you're denigrating the history of the club here.
Greedy.
The Betway Cup, which we celebrate every day on our on our kits, the Betway Cup. I think another thing that really doomed them, and I still believe this, and most people don't agree with it, but this is not me. This is not me playing a role. This is what I really think. The last season of the Bull-In, with Payet, with the 7th place finish, which is one of the best finishes we've ever had in the top flight of English football, period. I mean, it's like one of the top 5 or 10 finishes West Ham have had in 125 years, The drama of the last game, the end of the season when we beat Tottenham to knock them off the top of the table, the drama of Winston Reed's goal, Payet's brilliance, the hope for the future happened at the very worst time for the board. If we had finished 16th in 2016, if there had never been a Dimitri Payet, I don't think there would have been anywhere near as much complaining about the new stadium. I'm not saying people would have liked it, right? They wouldn't have necessarily liked the atmosphere. They wouldn't have liked the distance from the pitch and all that. But I think they would have said at least, well, it's not going to get any worse. The problem was we had this magical, by West Ham standards, magical season, magical player, one of the best players ever put on a West Ham shirt. And then it all collapsed, independent of the stadium move. It all collapsed right when we moved stadiums. So we went from this high to this low, and it coincided with the move. The stadium move was just bad luck. It's bad timing. Yeah, that's really all there is to it. Payet allegedly goes and gets a girl pregnant and goes back to France to save his family. And I mean, that's really not David Sullivan's fault. So I think, to me, I think there are a lot of it was just the timing.
Could have given some condoms or something. Think ahead.
I think he made enough money to buy some condoms.
That's what I'm saying.
I just don't. I mean, if that story's true, and I don't know if it is, if that story's true, it's just bad choice on his part, but a good choice to save his family. But I think the timing of it was just extremely unfortunate, because all the memories of the Bull-In, people don't look back on the nights when there were 10,000 people in the ground, and those happen. John, you were there. People don't look back on the losses. People don't look back on the brownout chants and the and the bond scheme and the original bubbles with the flag during the bond scheme. They don't look back. They look back on Payet and Winston Reed and Manchester United and all this stuff that happened in the last 2 months of the Bull-In, and that's where a lot of this stuff comes from. If that season had been a disaster, if we finished 16th or 17th, I'm telling you, the hatred for the Olympic Stadium is not as bad as it is today. I believe that.
Well, the funny thing is, if you look at that last season at Upton Park, Bilic's first games, we got trounced by Bournemouth at home, letting in 4 goals.
Yes.
Now, to me, that's business as usual at West Ham.
Right.
And so if we go over to the Olympic Stadium, I mean, I can only really remember one team moving stadiums and instantly having a massive uptick, and that was Middlesbrough in 1995. They bought Ravanelli, Juninho, and another Brazilian, Emerson, and Ravanelli scored a hat-trick on the opening day of the season. It was pain. My old man's a Borough fan, but that was the only time I can really remember a stadium move having a massive uptick. I mean, look how many years it took City to get to the Champions League and how much money.
Well, it took him a change in ownership. I mean,
you're right.
Yeah.
But repeat the last thing that you just said. They bought who?
Who's that? Sorry.
Borough. They bought Janino, Ravanelli, and who else?
Emerson.
Yeah,
the
we bought
dude.
Golkan Torre. We bought Faguli and somebody else. Like, I would imagine a good board would look at that situation. We're knocking on the door. I mean, we were in third, fourth place at that point, past that season. We're knocking on the door. Now's the time to stick another, to go buy that 40, 50 million pound player. Now's the time to go.
Try to get. Well,
something West Ham have never done, though. But West Ham have never done that, John.
No.
I mean, think about 1986 and 1987, and after 1986, West Ham were down within 3 seasons. I mean, there's never any pushing on from these great, heights of success. It's never like 7th, 3rd, 2nd. It's 7th, 12th, 18th every time.
Yeah, I mean, we're
to go back even.
Cursed.
And I do blame the board for that. I do, but I also blame all the other boards for that too. The ones that preceded the current one.
I mean, if you look back to like 1965 after the Cup Winners' Cup final, and then we won the 66 season where England won the World Cup with Hurst, Moore and Peters, then all of a sudden, nothing. So we had the best defender in the world, the only guy to score a hat-trick in the World Cup, and we sold our best player to Tottenham and then surrounded him with a pile of shit. So, and it didn't go well. I mean, even when we won in 1980, we were relegated, but everybody remembers the great Devonshire, Billy Bonds, Alvin Martin and all those, and John Lyle. We were in the 2nd division, so we had to have been shit to get relegated. So, it's business as usual to me.
And so many of our great legends, and I'm not saying they're not legends, but all I'm going to say is that a simple fact: most West Ham legends outside of like Moore, Hurst, Peters almost never played for England, almost never got called up. I'm not saying they shouldn't. Totally. I'm not saying that was a good decision. I'm just saying the practical reality is Billy Bonds never won a cap. I think he was called up once. He never won a cap.
The team he played.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And maybe he should have been called up. That's not the point. The point is most of our legends were actually, I mean, on a global scale, they kind of weren't that great. You know what I mean? On a West Ham scale, they were great. I think we lost Danny. I know Danny's got to get up at 4:00 in the morning, so I think we might have lost him. But I appreciate Danny being on. But yeah, I mean, of course, I blame the board for that we bought Torre and Zaza and all these, or brought him in on loan. But that's always been that way. That's always been that way.
See, my one take about the board, the one take I have about the board, and it's a little bit kind of like them personally, is they've made their fortune down the back alleys, on the top shelf. They're not a Jeff Bezos. They're not like someone who's made their money as a face of something. I mean, they've got Karen Brady there on the TV and all the rest of it. No one really cares. But Gold and Sullivan have made their money at the back alley and on the top shelf.
Yeah.
And they're not used to being out there. They're not used to being out there and communicating with the public to sell something to a wider public. And I think that resonates with the communication they have with the fans. And they're not really, they're business people and they're great business people. And you know what? They've got more money than I've got right now. One day, hopefully, I have that kind of dough. But they don't do business the same way as pretty much everyone else does. And I think that's the biggest problem with them and their communication with a fan base that needs constant reassuring that something good's going to happen eventually. And that's my problem with it.
That's probably half of my problem too, because if you look at what we've done, right, and we were discussing this earlier with the rebranding and stuff like that, we're corporatizing West Ham United. It's becoming a brand. But if you're not professional going corporate, then it's a complete oxymoron. From what we're actually doing to what we're saying are two completely separate things. And I think that's where a lot of my problems come in, because there just seems to be a lack of professionalism. There's a terrible culture that is infected from top to bottom in that club. that just it's a fucking cesspool of shit, and nobody seems, culture comes from the top.
Yeah,
and it doesn't seem to be displayed through the ranks of what professionalism and at least striving for excellence. At any corporation around the world, there's at least a continuous improvement aspect and a culture of striving to do better every day. And I just don't see it at West Ham. But if we're going to put the branding around it, and if we're going to say the right things, but not actually do the right things, that's where I get frustrated.
Yeah, I think I agree. Listen, I mean, the culture is toxic, it's poisonous, and that absolutely comes from the top. I hate a lot of things about modern football. I'm old enough to remember the days before modern football, but I'm not English enough to remember them, if that makes sense. So I really wish I could have been around in the late 70s and in the 80s to see kind of the proper game at proper grounds. I have a real fascination with those times, even though I didn't live them as a fan. So I hate the idea of a football club being a brand. You know what I mean? I hate the idea, but but I'm with you, John. If you're going to do it right. Do it in a way that is in unison with how your fans feel about it, that's in touch with them, and just don't constantly be embarrassing. The leaks that come out of this club, and then the things that we do, the things that the board do, they don't pay for players. They offer installment payments as if they're putting something on layaway at Sears. Do you know what I mean? It's like when I was a kid, and you could go and you could put. I don't know. Maybe you can still do this. I fortunately don't know.
They can do that, Lee. But why do we know about it?
Well, that's the thing. We don't need to know. Yeah. We've talked about this a lot. You and I, John, have talked about this a lot, and I know Joss and John. We've probably talked about it too. Anytime you join a company, the first thing you hear in training is don't talk about stuff with the press. I mean, it's the first thing outside of, don't sexually harass people and don't use racial slurs. The next thing they basically say is don't blab stuff to the press. If somebody calls you.
Didn't even get that one right, Lee. Our friggin' it was our scouting department.
Oh, that's right. We didn't even get that one right. You're right. We didn't even get that one right. Screwed that one up too. But the first thing they say is if somebody calls you, you talk to your boss, or you talk to the communications department. There's a system in place, right? So that nothing leaks. And that's private companies, public companies, any kind of company you're talking about. So this club, to me, it's very clear that there are systemic leaks that are intentional, and they're, at least I think they are. And they're really damaging. And whatever good they think it's doing the opposite. It's not doing any good at all. It's doing harm. It makes people angry. It throws off their expectations in one way or another. It's just a super unprofessional way to run a club, or any kind of business. I guess I go back. I guess if you produce pornos or if you sell dildos, for a living, maybe that's the kind of things people do. You know what I mean? I don't know what those industries are like, to be fair. I don't know. But if you're going to be, football's not a really respectable industry, but it's a little more respectable than those, maybe. If you're going to be doing something that's public facing, you want to be a little more professional in the public eye. And that's what bothers me about them. Maybe more than anything else.
I mean, this is like when you go back all these years, like let's say, when the brown out protests were happening outside Upton Park, most people did not know what Terry Brown looked like. He would he'd drive a Volvo, and he would keep himself. No one really understood what he was about and what he looked like or anything else, until they started like protesting against him, and then he just wanted out. He was like, "Yeah, I don't fancy this anymore."
Right.
But David Gold's a massive attention seeker. He's and he's very vain. And I mean, if he ever turns it, his Twitter account to me has been a big problem. I will say this one thing: they switched the kids' Twitter account off, the Sullivan sons off. That stopped.
Jack may be the smartest one of the bunch. That's the problem. He's the only one who actually has any leadership quality.
Yeah. I mean,
it was embarrassing when he was 16, but
he's
done well with the women's team.
You got like a 13-year-old tweeting club business. I mean, I can't ever remember hearing Roman Abramovich actually speak in the years he's been at Chelsea. It's got to be 20 years now, 15, 20
We
years.
don't know listen, you don't hear from the Qataris or the Emiratis. You don't hear from Abramovich. How much do
I don't hear from.
You don't hear from the
FSG at Liverpool.
Right, exactly. You don't hear from the Red Sox guys at Liverpool. I mean, you don't hear from them that much here in Boston, and they're mega celebrities in Boston, But they keep. I mean, I remember John Henry, the head of that group, stopped in to talk to Boston Sports Radio one day. Just dropped into the studio to talk about the Red Sox, and it was stop down news in the city. Do you know what I mean? Because he does not do that. So when he sat in on one of the radio shows for 20 minutes, I mean, that was a massive thing. Whereas Gold and Sullivan are always and Brady writes a stupid column in one of the worst newspapers in the world.
They just bring bad attention to themselves. It's bad.
I'm just detecting like a theme amongst what we're saying is that we're all angry because these are basics that they're messing up, and we know that they're basics. Don't leak things to the press. Like I know that. Like I've heard that at my job, and I've only been a lifeguard. So,
right.
Like it's a basic thing. Or
that's exactly what I'm saying. Yes.
Like when you pulled up the comment about we don't have data and analysis, or we only have one scout. Like these are all basics that a basic fan knows, and it's angering because it's not like West Ham's the only club in the world. There are clubs that we can look at and say, oh, they're doing well. Why are they doing well? Oh, they have a world-class training facility. They have a huge scouting network. They don't leak things to the press.
Right.
It's all of these basics that I feel like any competent fan could do, but for some reason, the people that it actually matters, they don't do it.
Yeah, the scouting thing is shocking to me. I mean, I think we had more scouts with the club that Tim and I used to run in the NPSL than West Ham have. I mean, there's no excuse for that. I mean,
no, and there are tons of people that are willing to be a scout for a club.
Right, exactly. And they don't cost millions of pounds.
No.
I mean, you send them off
just because they want to do it.
Yeah, you send them off to watch League One or championship matches, or you send them off, send them up across the channel to France or Holland or wherever. They'll do it. They'll do it for a stipend. Basically, it's better than having nobody. To have them take a stupid phone and film the players. At least we get to see what they're doing.
I mean, wasn't like David Moyes doing that? And we were like, that's the coolest thing. We
thought it was awesome that Moyes was actually doing that. He's going to manage. He's doing a scout's job. Yeah.
But our last two signings have been Susek and Bowen. Fantastic. Something must be working something along the line. It's.
I agree. Fantastic. And the reason at this point, I'm backing Moyes because there's a lot of talk about whether he deserves credit for those signings. Look, he made the signings, right? They were his signings. I'm going to give him credit because they happened on his watch, and they've been brilliant, and they helped us. They played a massive role in us staying up, and I thought he did a lot of what he did with Antonio. Reminds me of what he did with Arnautovic, moving him up front.
100%.
I mean, look, you give the guy the chance to save us once and knock him off. I thought that was inappropriate. I thought he should have gotten a contract after he saved us the first time. Be honest. This time, there's no excuse not to. Okay, I know he's not Pochettino. I know he's not Pep. I know he's not, Zidane. I mean, but those guys aren't coming here. Okay, they're not going to come to this club. They're not going to come for the money we pay. They're not going to come to work one scout and a bunch of players in a trailer. They're not going to come work for the pornographer and the dildo salesman and their lackey. They're not going to do it. This guy's a proven Premier League manager who has come in twice and basically kept us from going down. And at this point, I think he's the best we can do.
Well, Moyes is used to this because, I forget the guy's name who was chairman of Everton while he was Bill Kenwright. He was chairman of Everton while Moyes was there. Moyes had no money at Everton for about 3 seasons and did all right. Yeah. He worked with kids, he worked with a few loanies and all the rest of it. And I actually like David Moyes, and he's a respectful guy. He doesn't say outrageous stuff.
Right.
If he thinks he
I
can
like
go
that.
for the Champions League, go for the Champions League. If he says, "Oh, we're just going to go for 17th, we can try and stay up," people be vilifying him. So he
Right, because that's what Allardyce did.
can't-
That's what Allardyce said. Yeah, and they hated him.
He can't win. I love
Yeah.
Big Sam. Big Sam was one of the best managers we ever had. The only
In
time
retrospect, I
Sullivan,
agree with you. Yeah, at the time he
the
was
only-
here, I didn't like him. But I'm going to tell you, I look back now, I'd take him back. He was
I
solid.
loved him.
He was
Absolutely loved him.
professional. The players knew what to expect. He went in, and we've had Jack Collison talk about this. We've had Matt Jarvis and Matty Taylor. Did Taylor play for him? I can't remember. Anyway, all the guys we've had talk who played for Sam have come on, and they've all said the same thing. Sam came in and he said, we're going to break this season down into 8-game mini seasons, and we're going to finish 10th. And that was what he told him. He didn't say we're going for champion. He was pragmatic and practical, and that's exactly what they did. They finished 10th. And basically, once we were mid-table, he was like, okay, we're done. That's it. A lot of fans hated that, and I get that because he didn't play the West Ham way and all that. But you know what? He was solid, and he was professional. And what I don't get is the love for Bilic. I think Bilic got lucky with one really brilliant player, one of the best I've ever put on a West Ham shirt, and one
Mikhail
super
Antonio.
emotionally.
Yeah.
I'm wearing an Antonio shirt
Agreed.
tonight. Okay, so respect to that. But, Bilic had Payet. Bilic had this magical
I
season.
mean, I don't get the love for Bilic either. He did exactly what Payet did.
Listen, I mean, I know he's done well at West Brom. Good for him. I have nothing against him. I don't have anything against him at all. He was taking us down, and so was Pellegrini. And the last manager you can look at we've had who wasn't taking us down was Allardyce or Moyes, who's had to come in twice halfway through the season. Allardyce is the most successful manager we've had since Alan Pardew, and even Alan Pardew was taking us down when he got sacked. That was the Great Escape season when Kirbishley came in. So, you got to almost go back to Harry Redknapp the last time you find a manager who wasn't taking us down when he got sacked. I mean, I know a lot of people feel this way. I loved his passion, right? I loved his spirit. I generally liked the way he wanted his teams to play, but it was all going to end in tears. I don't think I'm crazy to say this. Go back to that, that season when Moyes came in, he moved Arnautovic up front. Arnie started to score goals. That's what kept us up. We were dead in the water before that. Does anybody think otherwise?
Oh no, I was fully prepared to go down.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree.
And it was he came in like November too, and I was fully prepared to go down.
Yeah, I was absolutely prepared to go down. Yeah. I was prepared to go down that season. I was prepared to go down again this season.
Whole team was sleepwalking.
Yeah,
it was unreal. It was terrible. And that's the thing with Bilic. I mean, I don't get the love for Bilic. I remember him signing, and he was phenomenal. He played 2 games. Slaven Bilic. He played his own, and he played Rio Ferdinand's game. All he did was bark at him the whole game. But then he did what Payet did, just with Everton.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
He did exactly the same.
He said he wanted to join a bigger club.
The same, I don't know, but
he did
the same thing. And
he did a Paul Ince. He did a Jermaine Defoe. He did the same thing.
He wasn't that bad. He wasn't that bad.
Well, okay, but he didn't wear the shirt.
No one did what Paul Ince did. Only Ince did.
Okay, he didn't wear the shirt before he was signed.
And Ince was different. Ince was a totally different thing. Ince was a world-class player and an academy player. Ince was a better Declan Rice.
That's true. No, he was a different player. But Bilic said when he left for Everton, I want to go play for a bigger club. I mean, how is that? How did some guys become legends and other guys don't? Like, I've always said this, all right, and a lot of people disagree with this too.
It was right at the time.
Listen, Carlos Tevez, what he did for us that season was fantastic. How is he a legend? He played half the season and he went to a much bigger club.
He's not.
I don't think he is either. But you're going to get if you go on Twitter and say Carlos Tevez is not a legend, or Carlos Tevez is that we overrate him as a West Ham player in our history, people are going to be furious about that.
No, we had a whole court case saying that he wasn't the one.
The word legend. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, if you look back at that season, I would say that Carlos Tevez played a massive part, but so did Robert Green, and so did Bobby Zamora, and so did Lucas Neal.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's a team game. It's not down to one guy,
And we even made the case in the court case that we lost to Sheffield United, that Rob Green was as critical as Tevez, and maybe even more critical than Tevez. He was the man of the match in that last game when we beat Manchester United. That famous last game. I don't know. I understand what Charlie's saying here. Let me just say this though. Hang on, I've got the wrong comment. This one. I mean, Arnautovic, as good as he was no Payet. He's never been close to Payet to me. I mean, just not even close. Dimitri Payet was a finalist for the Ballon d'Or, right? I mean, at West Ham.
Voting.
Like, has that ever happened before? Has any player at West Ham ever been a Ballon d'Or? I don't know how old the trophy is. It may, there may, like Bobby Moore maybe was a finalist in the 60s. I don't think it goes back that far. But, I mean, we're talking about like a world-class player, a guy who was a superstar at a big international tournament like that summer, 2016. They should have won the Euro. Yeah. They might have won the Euro if they kept him on the pitch, actually.
I think it was more than that. I mean, it was definitely, we had a player that could walk into any other team in the world. And we also had the remnants of Sam Allardyce's defense.
Right.
And when all that went to shit the following year, that seems to be the start of our demise.
I think that Moyes' and Bilic's situations were a little different, because I feel like with Bilic, all he could do was say, Payet, go out there and do something magical. Whereas we've heard the stories about like Moyes getting on him and saying, you won't play if you don't do this. And so I think that in terms of like man management, Moyes was better than Bilic, and Moyes actually had the job of man management rather than Arnautovic just being good, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing with Bilic and Payet reminds me of, I'm going back, and a lot of people are not going to get this, and I apologize, but Oklahoma football in the 80s when Barry Switzer was coach, he didn't coach. He paid the best players to come in, and they just played. They just played. Yeah. He didn't do anything. Guy Lewis, when he was the basketball coach at University of Houston in the 80s, he had Akeem Olajuwon, he had Clyde Drexler. He just rolled the balls out on the court. He said, I don't coach, I just sit there. I've got the two best players in college basketball. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to do anything. To a large extent, I think that's where we're with Payet. And I'll tell you this. I mean, I understand. I'm not sure this is true. This may be true. I'm not sure this is true. With all due respect, I love Charlie and he's smart, and I respect Charlie immensely. I'm just not sure this is true. Maybe, but this here, what Moyes did for us this season, to me, waiting out the 3-month off period, bringing us back under very difficult circumstances, for 3 months or however long it was, I looked at the table every day thinking maybe it got better today. Do you know what I mean?
I can see that.
Are we still just one goal out of the relegation zone, whatever it was at the time? I think we were even on points, and like 1 or 2 goals differential was what had us in 17th instead of 18th. Every day I would look at the table and I'd say to myself, no, it's still the same. So the fact that he brought us in, he got us 11 points, I think, 12 points in those last 9 games. High pressure, beat Chelsea, won the relegation battles against the clubs that we were battling against.
And he's done that this time, and in his first stint, he was here. We beat Southampton at home 3-0 in the first half. We Bournemouth at home on New Year's this time.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's something that we don't talk about enough, is that Moyes has won these clutch games time after time.
He's not sexy. He's not foreign. He's not going to take us to Champions League. All right. But nobody else will right now either.
Right. The thing is, what I say about Moyes, one thing I would say about Moyes is, like, if you go back to that last season of Bowl-in, like, you look at that Bilic team, there was a lull in proceedings in that season when Dimitri Payet missed about 4 or 5 games for injury. Nothing happened. If Payet didn't play, West Ham did not play. That was it.
Oh, look. Is that Charlie Walsh's music?
I just need to say that I love and respect you too, Lee. I want you to know that personally, that I think you're amazing,
Charles.
and I don't want you to think that me saying anything in the chat was to say otherwise. You're a
Call me
wonderful
later,
human being.
sweetheart. Hey,
We'll be going again for another hour and a half now.
Call me later. Call me later, sweetheart. We'll talk.
I will say. I'll say this about Moyes.
Stay on. Stay on.
He brought Hugo. He brought Hugo. So what else do we need? What else do we need?
He's going to sell him as well.
So
It's the Ezzy ship.
what happened with? I don't know what happened with Payet and the contract. I know what Bilic said. Unless I'm not going to call him a liar. I have no idea. I don't know what the true story with Dimitri Payet is. I've always believed the story that he got himself in trouble with his wife, and he went back to. Because why else would he go back to France, to Marseille? It doesn't make any sense. Good dude could have gone anywhere. He could have gone to Real. Well, maybe not, but he could have gone to, let's say, Atletico, right? I mean, he could have gone to a big, high-profile Champions League club. He could have gone to Manchester United. Everybody was after him. Why does he go to Marseille?
He could go to Real. He could go to Real.
He could go to Real. He could go to Barcelona. He could go to Atletico. He could go to Bayern. I don't care. You name the big, Dortmund, right? Big Champions League level clubs. He goes to Marseille. Not even the biggest club.
He didn't want to be with us because they gave him what, 1 million or 3 million bonus right after Euros.
They gave him $1 million.
He gave us that wonder goal against Middlesbrough, and then that was it.
That's right. That's correct. They gave him £1 million bonus. I know that's not a lot of money for a player these days, but it was found money. They just gave to him.
Just chucked at him.
Just said, thanks for not leaving. Here's £1 million. I've never had anybody do that to me. But I've had people pay me to leave places, but not, but not to stay. That's actually true. But yeah, I mean, listen. We have to temper our expectations, don't we? And we have to be a little bit realistic about who we are and where we are. David Moyes right now is a solid manager for West Ham, who I think will keep us up.
I don't think we do need to temper our expectations. And I'm not saying that we need to be looking at top four and being like, right, we're going to make it. We're going to do a Leicester this season. Let's go. I don't mean like that. But I mean, we shouldn't be looking at Moyes and going, well, what else can we do? Like, although I don't believe any other manager would want to come to us, Jesus Christ, I believe that 100% true. But also, we shouldn't be accepting the fact that we don't have scouts. We shouldn't be accepting the fact we don't have facilities. We shouldn't be accepting the fact that we should look at Moyes and go, actually, he's the only person. Because although he's the only person we know, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to go and find one of the best young managers in bloody Germany or Spain or bloody wherever else and go, actually, here, have a load of, get his money, come to us and try and grow us as a club. Like, I understand why people look at Moyes and they say, do you know what? He's steady, he's this, he's that, and the other. But it's that kind of defeatism that's never going to get you anywhere. It's just going to keep you perpetually in this cycle of going, oh, actually, we're just about going to survive this year. Okay, well, what are we going to do? Blah, 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 blah,
But the biggest issue that I have, because I agree with you, Charlie, especially about the scouting, the facilities. There's no excuse not to upgrade all of that. The reason I say what I do about Moyes is I don't think we're going anywhere as a club until these owners sell. I don't see any other way. And let's be honest. Let's just be dead honest. If you don't get a multi-billionaire in, it doesn't really matter who buys you. You're mid-table at best. You're never going to be better than mid-table unless you get a Manchester City style purchase. I mean, Leicester had the Blue Moon 1 in 1,000 years, championship because Tottenham bottled it basically. Unless you get that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, so
it can do though. That's the thing is you can do if you have anything up here, you actually say like with the scouting department, right? You know how you were talking earlier, and you were saying how like getting a bunch of scouts isn't going to cost you millions or whatever. Even if it does, say you've got the most unbelievable scouting team in the history of the world. Like you've got flipping John Nolan in there, you've got Fashizi in there, all the boys doing big bits, finding great lads. Okay, let's say you're paying them $5 million a year. A smart owner sees that and goes, actually, if I'm investing that much in it, they're going to get me twice out of that. They're going to find a Jetty for $9 million and then sell him for 20 the next season, and then that's the money paid for. It's the idea with the youth.
We don't have smart owners, though. We don't have smart owners. That's what I always come back to. And this is my argument for Moyes. Okay, not that he's a great manager, but that he seems to know how to work with these people in a way that gives us a minimum level of service. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just if he keeps us up right now with this ownership, I think we're never going to get much farther than 12th to 13th in the table. That's going to be a good season. We get some things to break our way.
Allardyce's one redeeming quality for me, because unlike you guys, I couldn't stand him, but he could work within the parameters and the shitty situation that he was given.
I couldn't stand him when he was at West Ham. I'll be honest. I mean, Ken and I would watch games and we'd boo. I mean, when he cupped his ear, I mean, after a win, disgusting. I couldn't stand him. But I'm not going to lie. I look back and he looks different to me now. After watching Pellegrini stroke his tie, and after watching Bilic, not able to stabilize us after Payet left, frankly. I mean, Allardyce to me just looks like I know he's he's controversial, but he just looked like a guy who could get us to 10th every season. And
so the thing is, I'm encouraged about Moyes is that since we come back after the break, he seems to have got big performances out of a lot of different players. I mean, Susek, Bowen, Antonio, Yarmolenko, Ogbonna, young Johnson come in after that, Nagapia, and it seems to be this positivity all over the park. And I've not seen that for a number of years now. It always seems to be like a one-man team. So if Moyes can get that tune out of 5 or 6 different players and actually get some goals out of 5 or 6 different players, I think we should be all right. As long as it continues, it's all good.
We should have been all right anyway, because John Nolan has said this many times, and it's true. We should have been all right anyway. This was a decent team that should never have been in a relegation battle. If these players had just played up to their average level, their mean, you know what I mean? Or median, whatever it is. I'm bad at math, but you know what I'm saying. If they had just played to their 50% level, basically, we'd have been fine. We'd have been comfortable if we hadn't dropped 24 points from winning positions. If we kept half of those points, we're mid-table and we're cruising and we don't care about the last 9 games. We should never have been this bad. Never have been this bad. So I think part of that has to fall on Pellegrini, and I think to some extent you have to give credit to Moyes for what you said, John. Getting the guys to run, getting the guys to play. I also am of the personal opinion, I know people don't like this, but I still believe that our players play better without fans.
I mean, if you're a West Ham player, and I think, like, if you look at it, we're like the Cleveland Browns or the Philadelphia Eagles. The minute there's a mistake, we're straight on the back, and that's nothing new. The Upton Park groan used to come in all the time, and the players must be thinking, "There's no one here," so they can play with a bit of freedom. And I said it jokingly on Twitter that West Ham, the biggest chance we've ever got of winning the league is next year if it's behind closed doors. That's the biggest chance we've got of winning the league.
I'm sorry, I think you're right.
Keep all the miserable fuckers out of the stadium and just let the guys play. And they can shout at the TV and no one can hear it. It's all good. And
it's not the away games. It's not the away games. It's the home games. It's the home games.
Yeah.
What got me, the performance against Chelsea. Okay, granted, we come back, we play Wolves and Spurs, we look like garbage. Those are 2 pretty solid clubs who were, actually ended up being in decent form. That, Chelsea at home, go behind, controversially, come back. Do you know what I mean? Go behind, come back, and then score in like the 88th, 89th minute. We don't do that. That's not something West Ham. We don't do that. That's not our way. Our way
the stadium would have been empty. When Yarmolenko scored, there'd have been 15,000 people there.
That's what I'm saying. I'm telling you, I think they went all out because they knew nobody was booing, nobody was jeering. You know what I mean? Nobody was saying same old West Ham. And I'm not saying that it's the fans' fault that we've not been good. All right. because I agree with this. The fans
I was going to say, I was going to say, are you still doing your board persona? Is that what's happening?
No, I'm not. The fans are not the problem. Listen, the board is the problem. The board are always the problem. Everything starts at the top. The problems start with the board and they end with the board, as far as I'm concerned. All right. Some players look lazy. Well, not all managers are great, but really the problem is the board start and finish for me. The fans are not a problem. Fans only react to what they see. All right. We all do. If I were sitting in the stadium, in the plastic seats at London Stadium, I'd do the same thing.
Yeah.
I'd sigh, I'd boo, I'd jeer. I would do like what anybody else would do. I'd do it sitting on my couch. The fans are not the problem. But I don't think it helps. I don't think it helps when we concede and it's like, the air just comes out of the balloon because we've seen it all before. And when I watched that Chelsea match, it was like that was a different team to me. I mean, the way they persevered until the end, the way they never panicked, that didn't look like a West Ham team. That looked like the Payet team to me. And that's the last time I've seen West Ham look like that I can remember.
I mean, a couple of things I'm looking forward to for next season is, like, let's say, right, Anderson, there's something not quite right, confidence-wise, mentally with him. Who knows what this pandemic and being locked down in a foreign country as a young man, Brazil's very bad for the virus. You don't know how that's going to affect someone. You don't know how that's going to affect that guy. So I'd say, right, write that off. Let's go again next season. Lanzini, I think, is done after that injury. And I think it's sad. I'm looking forward to Fornals' second season in the Premier League. He did great. During a shit show, he was doing
better than people give him credit for being. Better than people give him credit for being.
Totally. Yep. And then Haller, I would love. Again, he moved to a foreign country. He's got locked down, and who knows? He looks a bit of a sulky guy, but he knows where the goal is. So I kind of like think, you know what, guys, just go again. Forget it. Just get your confidence back. And I'd say Haller, if we can just get Anderson back to 75% of what he was when he first joined, I mean, it's undoubted quality there. And I'm not ready to give up on him. And this talk of selling him, I just don't know. I
just want to see him put out an effort. I thought the biggest criticism I had of him was he looked like a stroppy Frenchman half the time. Sorry. You guys know you can drink. You guys know I live there. You guys know I have a little experience with this.
Yeah.
They pout, right? When they don't get to what they want, they pout, all right? They just do. I've seen it. I'm sorry. It's true. Not for all French people, but for a lot. And I saw the look on his face and the slumped shoulders and the way he moved around. And I was like, yeah, I've seen this guy before. I've known these guys,
Mm-hmm.
And that's what bothered me the most. But his talent is obvious. Some of the goals he scored for us were fantastic. He still managed 7 goals in a very down, very bad season with COVID breaks and injuries and all sorts of weird stuff going on. So, yeah, there's no question the guy has potential. We spent £45 million on him. So, we should probably use him again next season.
Man is a baller. He's an absolute baller.
I think he is what he wants to be.
The tools around him to do what he needs to do. We've been playing the Pellegrini style of 2 wingers trying to pinch in and get around the striker. One of those was completely immobile. That was Yarmolenko.
Yeah.
And how are you going to get anybody close to him when they're going to make up 30 yards? He needs somebody in and around him.
And that's partly the problem. You can do it with a front three, okay? We saw it. Look at Southampton at home. It was a front three, but the difference then was that someone like Bowen wasn't told. He wasn't having to come back as much. He wasn't having to basically play as an auxiliary fullback. Because when someone's an auxiliary fullback, not only are they really far behind where the striker is, but they're really bloody wide as well. So not only do you have to make up the vertical space, you also have to make up the horizontal space. And, like the eagle flies, that's still more direction, right? Get people close to him, even if it's not a 2, just have people close to him. He can do it. He has the ability. John said it. He's a baller.
I hope he smashes it this season. I really does. He's got everything. You can tell.
Of course I hope he does.
He doesn't have his pace, and he's not a player to go chase down defenders. That's not him. So that's why he looks lazy. He's not Antonio running from defender to defender, chasing a ball that he knows he ain't going to get to. He's not.
But if we keep Anderson, and I think he's done with us. I don't think he wants to play for us anymore, but we'll see. If he shows, as you said, John, if he shows 75% of what he used to be on the left, if we have a Bowen or even an Antonio, on the right, Those are the guys we need surrounding Allaire. Those are the guys who will go up with him. Those are the guys who will play up with him. The problem, of course, is we need a new left back. Right back we might be okay without any cover. Johnson looks like a good player, but we need a new left back so that we don't ask Anderson to constantly come back and defend. We need him to keep pushing up because he doesn't like to track back. He hates tracking back. But if you get a couple of guys up there who, are willing to go forward, or willing to, as you guys were saying, cover the ground for him, I think Allaire could score a lot of goals for us.
I think the thing is, I think and this is going to sound like a criticism of Moyes, and it's not, but it is, but it's not, right? I think he would have scored more goals if he had a different manager than Moyes, because the difference between Moyes and Pellegrini was at least Pellegrini was willing to give people sort of close to him. It didn't work, but he was trying it, and then he got all of those goals under Pellegrini. Then Moyes come in, and Moyes' system is very much to isolate the striker, and it's by design, and it's not because he wants an isolated striker, it's because he's defensive first. And obviously when you're in a relegation scrap, yes,
that's what you do.
That makes sense. Yeah. So if he wasn't in, and that's what kind of concerns me about Moyes, is Moyes does sort of isolate strikers, and I look at it and I think, well, realistically, Haller's got a year to make it work. If he doesn't make it work this season, he'll be gone next summer, and he's got a year of David Moyes. And so I just hope. And what frustrates me about Moyes is like, you've got a £45 million striker, you've got a £45 million winger sat on your bench, and you're meant to be this great manager. Man manage them to be good, bruv. Don't just stick to the same people every single time.
Listen, Charlie, that's a totally valid point. 100%. I think you make a great point. I mean, you do. Cool. I think part of what a manager does, a coach, any leader, he's got to provide an environment in which those guys can motivate themselves. And Allaire and Anderson have not looked all that motivated to me. It's up to them to do it, but he's got to create the culture, that's going to cause them to do their best, basically, and I think tactics are part of it.
I hope with time that he does, right? Because he hasn't had a whole lot of time with these guys. He had to come in and he had one job to do, and that was keep us up. And so I think you revert to what you know in that situation, and he knows, Antonio ball, he knows work hard, he knows those kind of things, and hopefully with a bit of time, maybe it's, call it modernization, call it what you want, but he can see what players bring to the team as individuals. We're so unbalanced. That team, the whole squad is so unbalanced. We need to before we can do anything up the pitch, because it's just leaky. I think Souček is a fantastic buy for that reason. He can help shield. He can slide to the left. He can slide to the right. We can have two defensive midfielders working together to cover some of those gaps that our wingers were asked to do. But we've got to sort the balance problem out before we can do anything with anybody else.
I mean, we might have a right back now in Johnson, but there's no cover for him. We don't have a left back. Listen, I love Aaron Cresswell. I do. I just don't love him right now. And I love what he's done for us over the years. He was Hammer of the Year some years ago. I do. I love Aaron Cresswell. I think he's an underrated West Ham player on the basis of his whole career. But he's losing it fast, and it's obvious. And I don't know if it's age or what it is, but he was a liability this season. So you got to replace him. You know what I mean? You've got to replace him. Because
it is Masuaku season, through and through.
I mean, well, here's the thing about Masuaku. Play him on the left wing, and he may not be too bad.
Masuaku's a number 10 who was never told he's a number 10.
I mean, the dude has some skill, all right? He's always had some skill. He's not a defender. He's a terrible defender. He says he's a terrible defender, and in fact, he is. It's true, You can't play him at left back. You can't. We have never sorted our fullbacks, and I guess, when I went on the my Hammers 11 with Russ, Russ who does the sound at the stadium. You guys have probably been on there. Some of you've been on there too. You come up with a starting 11 of your choosing, and I just came up with one from, let's say, the last 15 years when I've really followed West Ham really closely. I had to look up our right backs to remember who they were. I went back to like 2007, and I was like, okay, who have we had it right? And I think I chose Guy Demel or somebody like that, and I put Cresswell at left back only based on his, his history at West Ham, not this season. But you watch any club with a half decent winger, I mean, they feast on us. They
was
feast on us
decent.
down the outside. You know, it's shocking. You know, and poor Issa Diop has lost his mojo. I don't know what happened to him, but he had a big time sophomore slump. So yeah, defensively, you know, we got lots of wingers. We got a packed midfield, but you get past Rice and Suchek, and we're, you know, you better hope Ogbonna can cover about 4 positions back there. That's what we're looking at.
And you better hope Ogbonna doesn't go back to what he was before this season, which was streaky AF. Man had like 3 good games and then 4 bad ones.
Exactly.
So,
he found consistency somehow. He's also not getting any younger. He's been with us for a long time.
I still don't know what he did that everybody's like going nuts for him this season about. I thought he had an okay season, but like
I thought he was our most consistently. I thought he was our most consistently solid player, with the possible exception, of course, of Declan Rice. But he just didn't make that many mistakes in a back line that was making a whole lot of mistakes.
Yeah,
for me.
But I mean, like,
Yeah, I think
if
just
he
solid.
had won Hammer of the
Yeah.
Year over Rice, it would have been a farce. If Rice did, win
I
Hammer of the
thought
Year,
I wouldn't have had a big
farce.
problem with it, but I could have gone either way. Yeah, he was solid when nobody else was. He was solid when everybody else was crap. He was solid. I think that's what it was. If you had asked most fans at the COVID break who the Hammer of the Year was, I mean, it was Ogbonna. Like, I probably 90% would have said Ogbonna, even over Declan. I think because Declan's consistently, you know, we expect it from him. And then, of course, you know, the whole Rice transfer to Chelsea thing came up, and, you know, he played exceptionally well in the last 9 games. He ends up Hammer of the Year. That's fine. I think it's deserving. It's fine. It's fine. But if you'd asked in March who the Hammer of the Year was, it was Ogbonna. Everybody said it was Ogbonna. I'm not making this up. I know it was. So whatever he was doing it right for a while.
I think he had a good season. I don't think it's been outstanding, but I do think it has been good. I didn't vote. I would have voted for Rice, but I do think but in a bad season, let me put it this way. In a season where we've been catastrophically bad at times, to say that our 2 Hammer of the Year candidates were a centre-back and a defensive midfielder is wild.
Yeah, I mean, defensively, we have been a bit of a sieve. And so if you look at 2 guys in defensive positions in the middle, in the spine of the team, which is, of course, I don't think the spine is our problem. I think the problem is on the edges. But yeah, it is kind of funny that of the 3 candidates, Antonio being the 3rd one, 2 of them were primarily defensive players. It doesn't really make any sense. You know, it's kind of weird. Anyway, I don't know. We've gone on for a really, really long time, mainly because Charlie came in off the top rope and did the Superfly Snuka. Dropped in on top of us. Hey, did I see Ric Flair holding a West Ham shirt on Twitter the other day?
You did. Ray got very excited and sent it to me.
Yeah, like a recent Ric Flair too, like, you know, old.
Yeah, he was holding the 14-15 kit.
Oh, was it that one? Oh, okay. So it was a few years ago, but he you know, yeah, Nature Boy. Yeah. Yeah, so Charlie, so my 7-year-old told me today, out of the blue, that his nickname is Nature Boy.
Nice.
I was like, why? Like, he doesn't know who Ric Flair is. He doesn't know.
He's styling it, bro. Listen, your 6-year-old's out here. He's styling and profiling. Do you know what I mean?
He kind of does. He kind of does, though. That's the thing, is he kind of does. And I was like, but you're not like a nature, like, that's not how he is, though. You know what I mean? There's nothing nature-ish about him. So I don't know where that came up. I don't know where that came from, but I was pretty excited. I gotta admit, it was kind of cool.
I respect it.
All right. Well, so we had Danny with us, whose battery died, but I appreciate him being on. Always good to have Danny on. He's a good dude. Has 2 adorable twin boys. He puts on Facebook all the time and likes seeing pictures of them. He also has to get up at 4:00 in the morning, so appreciate him. Anybody else? You guys want to throw anything else in for us before we go?
I'm all right.
I just want to mention on camera that I got followed on Twitter by John Cena today. I just want everyone to know that. That's all. I just need to bring it up again. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't notice you mentioned that 400 times on Twitter.
Yeah, no, I just need to keep mentioning it. I got followed by John.
How'd you even see
By the way,
Was there a tweet?
I don't know. The worst thing is I didn't even follow him. So I got the pleasure today of following back John Cena. who has 12 point whatever million Twitter followers. It was great, but
Who's John Cena?
Look out for that.
He's a wrestler and now an actor. He's from Boston.
He's my best friend, is what he is, Lee. Give him the respect he deserves.
He's from Boston too. He's a Boston guy, if I'm not mistaken.
He is. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's from around here somewhere. Yeah, he's from Mass. I went on my old Twitter account that I deleted years ago. Michael Andretti followed me. You know, Mario Andretti's son, right? The race driver. I don't know why. I never knew why. I posted about IT stuff. I wrote for an IT magazine. So why? I don't know. But anyway, Michael Andretti was my Twitter buddy for a little while. And I'm also friends on Twitter with, I'm not Twitter. I'm also friends on Facebook with, who is it? One of the guys from WKRP in Cincinnati, one of my favorite TV shows of all time, Gary Sandy from WKRP in Cincinnati. He's my Facebook friend. Not just following him. He's like, we're friends. We're tight. So
Swing, you made it.
I'm just saying, you could take your John Cena and, So let me know when one of the cast at WKRP follows you, Charlie, and then I'll respect you a little bit more.
Well, I hope for the best. If I keep tweeting out my nonsense, apparently it all works. So
a TV show that has to have ended before you were born.
Oh yeah, I've literally no clue, but I'll Google it and figure out the cast list, and then we'll start working on it.
It ended in 1982, so yeah.
Big 11 years before I was born, but we'll get there.
I was going to say, I can't imagine you're anywhere near that old. Anyway, to everybody who hung with us tonight in the chat room, there's still 10 people watching this somehow. 10 people with even less to do than what we have to do. Everybody in the chat room, tons of people in the chat room tonight who were all fantastic. Thank you for bearing with me as I tried to defend the board. I lasted about 45 minutes, better than I thought I would do. John in Philly and Charlie in London and Johnny Vegas, who's not the real Johnny Vegas. He's better than Johnny Vegas. He's West Ham Johnny Vegas. And Joss in one of my favorite places, Kansas City. Are we going to see the Chiefs this year, Joss? You think it's going to happen?
All signs point to yes. They're back in practice. They're back in full pads and practicing. So, and
Patrick Mahomes has his $500 million.
I don't know how we figured that one out, man.
Listen, I actually kind of like the Chiefs. So there are a lot of reasons I kind of like the Chiefs. But anyway, thank you guys for all being on. It is Wednesday. There's probably a show on tomorrow. I don't know if Katie and Rebecca are still doing their show. They might be back at it again. They're really good. They get more viewers than we do. They get all the viewers. I don't really know why. Can't think of a reason. But anyway, thank you guys for being on. It's been a lot of fun. To everybody in the chat room, thank you, and we will talk to you again soon. Come on, you Irons.
Yeah.